The cowboy finally met his match, a fearless frontier woman who bowed to no man. Cole Maverick had ridden across more planets than most space travelers could name. His boots were worn, his hat faded from countless suns, and the holsters at his sides held guns that had seen more action than most entire settlements. He was known as a cowboy, a lawkeeper, and sometimes, depending on who was telling the story, a hero. There was no place in the galaxy he hadn't been, no town too wild, no outlaw too dangerous. Or so he thought. The shuttle doors hissed open, and Cole stepped onto Nova Terra, a frontier planet perched at the edge of explored space. The air smelled sharp and clean, mixed with the metallic tang of the planet's energy crystals. Strange wind currents whistled through the jagged crystalline cliffs, creating eerie, almost musical notes. It was beautiful. It was dangerous. And it was untamed, exactly the kind of place Cole thrived in. He adjusted his hat and took a deep breath, letting the wind whip across his face. The settlement ahead was small, a few dozen buildings clinging to the edge of a canyon, but it had life. Smoke spiraled from chimneys, and figures moved along dusty paths, busy with their daily chores. Cole smirked. It looked like another lawless frontier town just waiting for him to step in and tame it. But then he heard whispers. "Don't go near her land." The frontier woman who bowed to no man, the woman who had outsmarted raiders, wild beasts, and even corrupt planetary governors. Cole laughed under his breath. He had faced worse than a clever woman before. Surely he could handle this one too. He strolled into the settlement, boots kicking up dust, his eyes scanning the horizon. The townspeople watched him warily, and he offered a friendly nod. "Name S. Cole Maverick," he said. "Heard you got yourself a problem, thought I might help." A few of the locals exchanged nervous glances. One old man stepped forward. "You're not from around here," he said, voice trembling. "And you've got no idea who you're dealing with. That woman, she's not like any man you've faced." Cole chuckled, tipping his hat. "I like a challenge." As he spoke, movement caught his eye, a flash of motion in the canyon above. A figure moved with incredible grace, leaping from rock to rock. It was a woman, no doubt, with a long coat that flowed behind her and a rifle slung casually across her back. She was surveying the settlement, her eyes sharp and calculating. Cole's smirk faded slightly. He had seen many dangerous opponents, but something about her presence demanded respect. He followed the locals' direction to a ridge overlooking the canyon. From there he could see her clearly. She was Zara Vera, all right. She moved like she owned the land itself, and it was clear the planet had taught her well. Each step was precise, each glance measured. She wasn't just surviving, she was mastering every inch of Nova Terra. Cole's pride stirred. He had faced deadly creatures, rogue AI, and mercenaries who outnumbered him. Yet here he was, a seasoned cowboy, and this woman's mere presence made him pause. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of doubt. The day passed as he watched her from afar. The sun moved across the crystalline cliffs, scattering prisms of light across the canyon. Cole noticed how the townspeople looked at her, not with fear exactly, but with awe. She commanded respect without saying a word, her reputation enough to keep the peace. As evening fell, Cole made his way to the small tavern at the center of the settlement. It was a simple place, wooden walls reinforced with metal, smoke curling from the hearth. He sat at a table and ordered a drink. The bartender, a wiry man with a permanent scowl, glanced at him suspiciously. "Looking for trouble?" the bartender asked. Cole shook his head. "Just observing," he said, "learning about the territory." The bartender snorted. "You'll learn fast enough, but if you're thinking of facing her," he shook his head, "you'd better think twice." Cole didn't like being warned. He never did, but the curiosity gnawed at him. Who was this woman that a whole settlement treated with cautious reverence? He finished his drink and left the tavern, heading toward the outskirts where the canyon opened wide. Night fell, and the twin moons rose, casting pale light across the landscape. Cole rode along a narrow path carved into the cliffs, hoping to catch a closer look at Zara without being seen. The wind shifted and he froze. A soft whistling sound carried across the canyon, like music, but sharp and dangerous. Then a small flash of movement. She had noticed him. Zara stepped onto a rock ledge above, her rifle resting across her shoulder. She looked directly at him, unflinching. "You're far from home, cowboy," she said, her voice calm but firm. "And you're looking where you shouldn't." Cole dismounted, hands visible, keeping his distance. "Name S. Cole Maverick," he said. "I've faced worse than a warning before." Zara's eyes narrowed, studying him. "Warnings are for the wise," she said. "You don't seem very wise." He laughed, a low sound that echoed across the canyon. "Maybe not, but I like to see for myself. Besides," he gestured around, "this land is dangerous. Doesn't it pay to have a partner?" Zara didn't answer immediately. She scanned the canyon, her gaze sharp as a hawk. Then she shook her head. "I don't need partners, I work alone." Cole felt a strange mix of irritation and respect. This woman was unlike anyone he had ever met. Most people fell in line when he stepped forward. Zara simply didn't care. She had her own rules, her own strength, and she lived by them. They watched each other in silence as the wind howled through the canyon. Cole realized this was no ordinary challenge. He wasn't here to tame the land or the people. He was here to test himself against someone who matched him in every way, someone fearless, clever, and utterly unyielding. Hours passed. The moons moved higher in the sky, casting silver light on the crystalline cliffs. Cole finally spoke. "Tomorrow I'll explore the canyon. Maybe I'll see how good you really are." Zara's lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile. "Maybe you'll survive," she said. "Maybe you won't. Either way, I'll know your name by the end of the day." Cole felt the thrill of a challenge he hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure if he could win, but he was willing to try. He mounted his horse, eyes fixed on the shadows where Zara had disappeared. The frontier had tested many cowboys before, but tomorrow it would test him in a way he had never imagined. As he rode back to the settlement, Cole knew one thing for certain. He had finally met his match. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't laughing at the thought. The first light of dawn stretched across Nova Terra, painting the crystalline cliffs in pinks and golds. The wind carried a chill that bit through Cole Maverick's jacket as he rode along the jagged paths, eyes sharp for any sign of movement. Today, he was determined. Today, he would see just how good Zara Vera really was. Cole had spent the night thinking. He had always faced outlaws, alien raiders, and machines gone rogue. Each time, he had relied on his experience, instincts, and quick reflexes to come out on top. But Zara was different. She had moved like a shadow on the cliffs, never panicked, and commanded respect from everyone she encountered. She was not only strong and smart, she was untouchable in her own way, and that intrigued him more than he wanted to admit. He dismounted at the edge of the canyon and carefully tied his horse to a rock. He wasn't here to scare the locals. He was here to observe and perhaps learn something. Every step he took was careful, silent. Nova Terra's crystal-laden landscape was full of surprises. Some rocks were unstable, others emitted faint energy pulses, and he had to constantly scan for any movement. From above, a shadow flitted across the cliffs. Zara. Cole froze, knowing she had already spotted him. He grinned under his hat. It was exactly as it should be. A test, a challenge, and she set the rules. "You're persistent," she called down from her perch, her voice calm and teasing. "Or maybe foolish." Cole tipped his hat. "A little of both, maybe. But I like to see what I'm dealing with." Zara's eyes glinted. "Then follow the rules." Cole didn't move immediately. The canyon below was a maze of jagged rocks, glowing crystals, and narrow ledges. It would be easy to get trapped or lost. He knew that, and Zara knew that. This was her home, her advantage, but he liked a challenge. "First rule," she said, "don't step where I don't allow. Every trap you avoid counts. One mistake and you'll know what I mean." Cole laughed softly. I like your style. Without another word, Zara disappeared from view. Cole scanned the cliffs, trying to anticipate her movements. Then, with a sudden flicker of motion, she appeared on a ledge ahead, beckoning him to follow. Cole's heart raced with excitement. This wasn't just a physical challenge. It was a game of wits, strategy, and instinct. He moved carefully, stepping only on stable rocks, listening to the hum of the crystals beneath his boots. Every so often, a crystal would resonate when touched incorrectly, sending a sharp vibration through the ground. Cole realized that Zara had turned the entire canyon into a living puzzle. A faint click sounded behind him. He froze. The wind carried the sound directly to his ears. Cole quickly jumped to the side as a small rock trap slid past, narrowly missing him. He smiled. Impressive. This woman had thought of everything. Not bad, he muttered under his breath. Not bad at all. He continued, adjusting his path based on instinct and observation. He could see faint signs where Zara had walked, subtle scratches on rocks, displaced dust, a barely noticeable energy pulse from a crystal. Each clue guided him forward, keeping him safe from the traps she had so carefully placed. From above, Zara watched, her arms crossed. She wasn't just testing him, she was studying him. Most intruders panicked after the first trap. Cole didn't. He was careful, respectful of the canyon, and patient. Slowly, she allowed herself a small smile. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, and Cole navigated through narrow passages, leapt across fissures, and avoided crystal spikes that hummed with energy. Every time he made it past a challenge, he felt a rush of pride. But he also knew he was learning from Zara. She had built a system that required observation, intelligence, and respect for the land. This was a frontier unlike any he had faced before. Finally, Cole reached a wide plateau. There, standing calmly, was Zara herself, leaning against a rock and surveying the canyon below. She didn't look surprised that he had made it. She looked impressed. "You made it," she said softly. "I didn't think you would." Cole wiped sweat from his brow and smiled. "Neither did I," he admitted. "You're good, really good," Zara nodded. "I've had a lot of practice. And you have potential. Most men would have given up hours ago," Cole chuckled. "I don't give up that easily." There was a pause, a silent acknowledgement of mutual respect. For a moment, neither spoke, both aware of the canyon's dangerous beauty around them. Cole noticed how the light reflected on the crystals, how every shadow could hide danger. This was Zara's home, and she ruled it not with force but with mastery. "You learn fast," she said finally, "but the canyon isn't the only test. There's more to surviving here than avoiding traps. You have to understand the people, the land, and the dangers that aren't obvious." Cole raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Zara's smile was sly. "You'll see soon enough." Before he could ask more, a distant rumble echoed through the canyon. Dust fell from the cliffs above. Cole instinctively reached for his guns, but Zara waved him off. "Not yet," she said. "This is something we can't shoot." They moved together toward the sound, careful and alert. Ahead, a group of scavengers was trying to break into a small energy crystal deposit. They were loud, careless, and unaware of the canyon's dangers, or of Zara. Cole felt a rush of excitement. Finally, action. He wanted to confront them head-on, guns blazing, but Zara stopped him, her hand raised. "Watch and learn," she whispered. They crouched behind a crystal outcrop, observing. Zara quickly analyzed the situation. She pointed to a narrow fissure above the scavengers. "If we drop some rocks there, they'll think it's a landslide and run. Minimal risk, maximum effect." Cole nodded, impressed. Most people would have fought recklessly, but she was smart, efficient, and calculated. He helped her move rocks into position. When the trap triggered, the scavengers panicked, fleeing in all directions. None were hurt, but the lesson was clear. Zara's way worked. Cole grinned. "I see why the townspeople respect you," Zara shrugged. "Respect isn't given, it's earned. And sometimes it's demanded." Cole felt a thrill he hadn't experienced in years. He had faced danger countless times, but here, in this canyon, with this fearless woman, he felt challenged in every way, physically, mentally, and morally. He was learning what it truly meant to be alive on the frontier. The sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the cliffs. Cole and Zara made their way back toward the settlement, moving quietly, aware of every sound, every shimmer of crystal light. Along the way, they talked, not about combat or strategy, but about the land, the people, and their experiences. Cole realized that Zara had a depth few people ever reached. She was strong, fearless, and independent, but also thoughtful and clever. By the time they reached the edge of the settlement, Cole felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. He had been tested in ways he hadn't expected, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. He respected someone as an equal. "You're not bad," he admitted, tipping his hat. Zara's lips twitched into a faint smile. "You're not bad either. For a man who thinks he's faced everything, you survived my canyon and my test. That's unusual." Cole laughed softly. "Maybe I'm learning from the best." Zara shook her head, a small smirk on her face. "Just don't get too confident. The canyon is only the beginning." Cole felt a thrill of anticipation. He had finally found someone who could match him, challenge him, and make him question his own abilities. And he knew, deep down, that he wanted more of this challenge, not as a competition, but as a test of mutual skill and respect. As night fell, Cole returned to his small quarters at the settlement, thinking about the day's events. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and perhaps the first real partnership he had ever experienced. He closed his eyes, feeling a sense of excitement he hadn't felt in years. The frontier had claimed many cowboys before, but tonight it had claimed Cole Maverick's respect for someone else, and he was ready to see where it would lead. The morning sun rose over Nova Terra, casting long shadows across the jagged cliffs and glowing crystals. Cole Maverick mounted his horse, feeling the excitement of a new day. Yesterday had been a test, a game of skill and wit with Zara Vera. Today, he had a feeling the frontier would demand more than cleverness. He had heard rumors from the townsfolk the night before. A rogue mining corporation, Hellion Industries, was planning to take the planet's energy crystals by force. They didn't care about the land, the people, or the wildlife. Their machines and armed mercenaries were coming, and no one knew when. Cole knew he had faced many dangers before, but he also knew that brute force alone wouldn't win here. Nova Terra's beauty was deceptive. The crystals hummed with energy that could be dangerous if mishandled. And Zara, he had seen how she moved, how she thought. She would have a plan, and he was eager to see it. He rode toward the canyon, following a narrow trail lined with jagged crystals. The wind carried a faint hum, almost like the land itself was alive. Cole's instincts told him to be cautious but also alert. This was not just about surviving, this was about learning how to fight smart. He spotted Zara ahead, crouched on a ledge overlooking the canyon. Her eyes scanned the horizon, sharp and calculating. She looked every bit the fearless frontier woman the legends described. "You're early," she said without turning. "Or maybe you just can't sit still," Cole chuckled. "A little of both. What's the situation?" Zara gestured toward the distant canyon floor where a plume of dust rose. "Scouts from Hellion. They're testing the settlement's defenses. Small teams first to see how fast we respond. If we're not careful, they'll map the area and come back with full force." Cole dismounted and followed her lead, moving quietly along the ridge. He noticed the clever ways she used the canyon to her advantage. Rocks positioned to block paths, energy crystals aligned to create light signals, even narrow ledges that could only be crossed with careful balance. Every detail showed her deep understanding of this land. "We can't just shoot them," Zara continued. "They have drones. Guns will only make things worse. We need strategy, traps, and the terrain on our side." Cole frowned slightly. I usually just face them head-on. Guns first, questions later. Zara raised an eyebrow. Then you'll die fast here. You need to think, not just fight. Follow me or stay out of the way. Cole grinned. Lead the way. Together they moved through the canyon, avoiding Hellion scouts with clever maneuvers. Cole was impressed by Zara's foresight. She knew every path, every hidden crevice, and every risk. He realized that surviving here wasn't just about strength, it was about understanding the environment and using it. They reached a narrow pass where the canyon walls glowed with energy from the crystals embedded in the rocks. Zara pointed to a ledge above. We can trap them here. The crystals amplify vibrations. If we collapse part of the ledge, it will scare them off without hurting anyone. Minimal risk, maximum effect, Cole nodded. Smart. Let's do it. They carefully dislodged rocks from the ledge, placing them so that when the scouts entered the narrow pass, the rocks would tumble and create a controlled landslide. Cole held his breath as the first scout stepped into the trap. A rumble echoed through the canyon, dust and small rocks falling around the intruder. The scout froze, then panicked, running back the way he came. Zara smiled faintly. See, brains over bullets. Cole grinned. I can get used to this. For the next few hours, they continued to intercept Hellion scouts, using traps, misdirection, and clever signals. Cole realized how much he had underestimated Zara. She was not just brave, she was brilliant, resourceful, and patient. Every move was calculated, every action thoughtful. As the sun reached its peak, they took a short rest on a high ledge. Cole wiped sweat from his brow and looked at Zara. I've faced a lot of people in my life, but I've never met anyone like you. Zara shrugged. You'll meet a few more before your time is up, but most don't last long. Cole laughed softly. Maybe that's why I like this challenge. You don't just throw people around, you make them think. Zara's expression softened slightly. Thinking keeps you alive here. And it keeps the frontier strong. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm, a signal from the settlement. Hellion's main force had arrived. Massive machines rumbled through the canyon, carrying heavy equipment and weapons. The townsfolk looked terrified. Cole's first instinct was to charge forward, guns blazing, but Zara grabbed his arm. Wait, she said firmly. We have a plan. Follow me. They ran along a hidden path, leading to a narrow canyon where Hellion's machines would have to pass in single file. Zara pointed to the rocks above. We can block their path and create confusion. They'll lose coordination, and we can drive them back without a single shot fired. Cole watched in awe as she moved quickly, placing rocks and guiding the terrain to their advantage. He assisted where he could, realizing that brute force would have failed. This was a different kind of battle, one that required patience, intelligence, and teamwork. The Hellion machines rumbled into the trap, and as predicted, chaos ensued. Rocks tumbled, paths narrowed, and the machines struggled to move. Hellion's mercenaries shouted orders, but confusion reigned. Cole and Zara guided the townsfolk, helping them move supplies and evacuate key areas. By the time the dust settled, Hellion's forces were retreating, frustrated and beaten without significant violence. Cole wiped dirt from his face and looked at Zara. That was incredible. You didn't just protect the settlement. You humiliated them. Zara smiled faintly. We did it together. Remember, it's not about who fires first. It's about who survives and protects what matters. Cole nodded, understanding the truth in her words. He had always relied on his guns, his speed, and his reflexes. But here, on Nova Terra, strength alone was not enough. Strategy, intelligence, and respect for the land were just as important. As the sun began to set, painting the canyon in shades of orange and purple, Cole and Zara sat on a ledge overlooking the settlement. The townsfolk were safe for now, and the machines had retreated. You make a good partner, Cole admitted. Zara raised an eyebrow. Don't get used to it, I work alone. Cole laughed. Maybe, but I think we make a good team. Zara didn't answer immediately. She was quiet, thoughtful, watching the settlement below. Finally, she said, "I'll admit you're different from the others. You listen, you learn, and you don't rush blindly. That counts for something." Cole felt a surge of pride. For the first time in years, he felt respected as an equal, not because of his reputation, but because of his actions. The night fell, and the twin moons rose, casting pale light over the crystalline cliffs. Cole knew that the threat from Hellion was far from over. They would return, bigger and stronger. But for now, he had learned something important. On this frontier, brains could outmatch brawn, and strategy could outmatch firepower. And he had learned it from someone he had never expected, Zara Vera, the fearless frontier woman who bowed to no man. Cole felt excitement, anticipation, and even a little admiration. He had finally met someone who challenged him, who forced him to rethink his approach, and who could match him in courage, intelligence, and skill. As he lay in his small quarters that night, Cole couldn't help but think about the future. The frontier was wild, dangerous, and unpredictable, but with Zara by his side, even if she refused to admit it, they had a chance. A chance to protect the settlement, face the corporation, and survive where others would fail. And Cole Maverick, the seasoned space cowboy, realized something he hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't just facing a threat. He was ready for the challenge. The dawn on Nova Terra brought a strange calm, but Cole Maverick knew it was only the surface. The wind whispered through the crystalline cliffs, carrying with it the hum of hidden energy and the distant sound of Hellion Industries, machines preparing to strike. Today would not be another test. It would be the real battle. Cole mounted his horse, feeling the familiar weight of his guns at his side. He had faced countless battles before, but nothing like this. The canyon itself was alive with danger, traps, and secrets, and Zara Vera had made it clear that this was her domain. He had learned from her, followed her rules, and now it was time to combine their strengths. Zara appeared from a narrow path, her coat flowing behind her and her rifle slung casually across her back. She didn't greet him with words. Her presence alone commanded focus. Cole had come to admire her calm determination. She had a plan, and she expected him to follow. "They're coming in full force," she said quietly, pointing toward the distant canyon entrance. Massive machines rumbled in the distance, carrying heavy weapons and reinforced cages. "We can't outgun them, we have to outsmart them. Follow my lead and stay alert." Cole nodded. He had never enjoyed following anyone, but with Zara, it felt different. She wasn't trying to dominate him. She was using every advantage the land and their skills offered. They moved quickly through hidden paths, avoiding Hellion scouts and drones. Cole noticed how Zara's eyes constantly scanned the environment, catching details he might have missed. A crystal that could reflect light as a warning signal, a fissure that could collapse under weight, a narrow ledge where they could hide and observe. He was impressed but also aware that any misstep could be fatal. "You understand the canyon," he said quietly as they paused behind a large crystal outcrop. Zara's eyes didn't leave the approaching machines. "I live here. I know it, but knowing isn't enough. You have to anticipate, predict, and adapt. The machines are predictable, people aren't, and that's where we win." Cole nodded, gripping his guns, though he knew this fight might not need them. "Then let's win." They reached a narrow pass where the canyon walls created a natural funnel. Zara pointed to a ledge above the pass. "If we dislodge the rocks up there, the first wave of machines will panic. It's not just rocks. They'll think the canyon is collapsing. That's when we move." Cole smiled. "Brains over bullets just like yesterday." Zara smirked faintly. "Exactly. Now help me." Together they worked quickly and quietly, rolling rocks into position. Cole's strength complemented Zara's precision. The rhythm of their teamwork felt natural, almost effortless. He realized that despite her insistence on working alone, they were stronger together. The rumble of Hellion's machines grew louder. Cole felt a surge of adrenaline. He had faced danger before, but this time every move mattered. not just his survival but the safety of the settlement below. The first machine entered the pass. Zara signaled, and the rocks tumbled down. Dust and debris exploded across the canyon, machines skidding and spinning in confusion. Mercenaries shouted orders, but the canyon amplified every sound, creating chaos. Cole and Zara moved swiftly, guiding the townsfolk to safe areas and using the canyon's natural traps to their advantage. One of the larger machines tried to push through, its reinforced wheels grinding against the rocks. Cole and Zara exchanged a glance. Without words, they executed the next phase of their plan. Using narrow ledges and energy crystals, they created illusions of falling rocks and shifting paths. The machines faltered, some retreating, others unable to navigate the tricky terrain. Cole felt a thrill he hadn't experienced in years. This wasn't just combat, it was strategy, intelligence, and courage combined. Every step required careful thought, and every decision had consequences. He realized how much he had underestimated Zara. Her reputation was no exaggeration. She was not only fearless but brilliant. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, then began its descent, casting long shadows across the canyon. Hellions' forces were relentless, but each time they tried to adapt, Zara had a countermeasure ready. Cole moved beside her, assisting when strength was needed, stepping back when patience was required. At one point, a massive machine surged forward, heading straight toward a cluster of townsfolk. Cole reacted instinctively, running to intercept, but Zara stopped him with a firm hand. "Trust the plan," she said firmly. Cole hesitated, then watched as she directed the townsfolk to safety and triggered a clever diversion using the canyon's natural formations. The machine was caught in a trap of rocks and energy pulses, unable to reach the settlement. Cole's respect deepened. She was right. Sometimes strength alone wasn't enough. As the final wave of Hellion's machines attempted to escape, Cole and Zara coordinated a last maneuver. Using a combination of rocks, crystals, and narrow paths, they forced the machines into a dead-end canyon. The retreating mercenaries realized they had no way out and surrendered, humiliated but unharmed. Cole exhaled, feeling both relief and exhilaration. They had done it, outsmarted a corporate army without losing a single life. The townsfolk emerged from their hiding places, cheering, grateful, and safe. Zara leaned against a rock, her rifle slung lazily across her back. She looked at Cole, her expression unreadable. "You did well," she said quietly. Cole laughed softly. "We did well together," Zara shrugged. "Don't get used to it, I still work alone." Cole grinned. "Maybe, but I've learned something important. Sometimes being smart and brave together beats being strong alone." They walked back toward the settlement, the canyon now quiet except for the distant hum of crystals. Cole realized that this battle had changed something in him. He had always relied on his guns, his speed, and his instincts. But today he had seen the power of intelligence, strategy, and partnership. As they reached the edge of the settlement, townsfolk gathered around them, offering thanks and praise. Cole nodded politely, but his eyes remained on Zara. She had faced the frontier alone for so long, and now he understood why. Her independence was her strength, and her courage inspired everyone around her. "You've taught me a lot," Cole admitted. Zara looked at him, a faint smile playing on her lips. "And you've surprised me. Most men wouldn't have lasted a day in my canyon. You lasted a week. That counts for something," Cole chuckled. "Maybe it does, but I think we make a good team." Zara shook her head, but her eyes softened. "Maybe, but don't think this changes anything. The frontier is still mine to protect." Cole tipped his hat, smiling. "And I wouldn't want it any other way." As night fell, the twin moons rose, casting silver light across the crystalline cliffs. Cole and Zara stood together, looking out over the settlement. They had faced a powerful enemy, used their wits and courage, and protected the people of Nova Terra. Cole felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had finally met someone who could match him in every way, someone fearless, clever, and independent. And for the first time, he realized that being equal to someone didn't diminish his own strength. It amplified it. The frontier had tested them both, and they had survived, not just through skill and courage, but through respect and understanding. Cole knew the challenges weren't over. Hellion Industries would return, and the frontier would continue to demand bravery, intelligence, and resilience. But tonight, for the first time, he felt truly alive. And he knew that no matter what came next, facing it together, if Zara allowed it, would be stronger than facing it alone. As they watched the moon's rise and the canyon glow with the hum of energy crystals, Cole realized one undeniable truth. He had finally found someone who could stand beside him, challenge him, and inspire him. And in that realization, he felt more human and more heroic than ever before. The first light of dawn on Nova Terra cast a golden shimmer over the crystalline cliffs. The canyon, now quiet and peaceful after the recent conflict with Hellion Industries, seemed almost alive with calm energy. Birds, or creatures resembling birds, chirped softly, and the hum of the crystals filled the air like a gentle song. The frontier had survived another day, and so had its guardians. Cole Maverick stood at the edge of the canyon, his horse grazing nearby. His hat was tilted low, and his hands rested lightly on his holsters, but he knew he wouldn't need to draw his guns today. The battle had been won, the settlement safe, and the mercenaries had been sent running by Zara's clever traps and his support. Yet even in the calm, he felt a rush of anticipation. Something had changed in him since he first arrived on Nova Terra. Zara Vera approached silently, her boots making almost no sound on the rocky ground. She had a faint smile, rare but genuine. For weeks she had tested him, challenged him, and fought alongside him. And now, standing in the soft light of the morning, she seemed almost human in her quiet satisfaction. "You're up early," Cole said, tipping his hat. Zara's eyes glinted in the sunlight. "The frontier doesn't sleep." "Neither do I," she paused, then added, "and I wanted to make sure the settlement was secure before the townsfolk started their day." Cole nodded. "You did well. Everyone's safe because of you, because of us." Zara shrugged. "Don't get sentimental. You helped too. But remember, the frontier doesn't forgive weakness. You have to be strong, smart, and fearless, all three, or you don't survive." Cole laughed softly. "I think I've learned that, especially the smart part from you." Zara's lips curved into a small smile. "I've seen many cowboys like you, brave, proud, and stubborn. Most don't last long. You surprised me. You listened, adapted, and didn't panic. That counts for something." Cole felt a warmth he hadn't expected. He had spent years traveling from planet to planet, taking on dangers alone, trusting his own skills above all else. Yet here, on this frontier, he realized that courage alone was not enough. Partnership, respect, and shared intelligence made the difference. The settlement stirred below, townsfolk emerging from their homes and tents. They looked up at the two figures on the cliff, Cole and Zara, and their expressions were a mixture of awe and gratitude. For weeks they had lived under the shadow of Hellion's threat, unsure if anyone could protect them. Now, standing tall and confident, Cole and Zara were living proof that human courage and ingenuity could prevail. Cole looked at Zara and spoke quietly. "You didn't need me." "I know that, but I'm glad I was here." Zara studied him, her expression unreadable for a moment, then she nodded. "You were useful, not just your strength but your perspective. You don't think like most people. That made a difference." Cole felt a grin spread across his face. "I'll take that as a compliment." Zara turned to gaze at the horizon, where the twin suns began to rise higher in the sky. "The frontier is still wild. Hellion might come back. There will always be threats, but we've proven that brains, courage, and teamwork can hold the line." Cole joined her, standing side by side. "We make a good team," he said, letting the words linger in the morning air. Zara's smile was faint but genuine. "Maybe, but don't expect me to let you take the lead. I've spent my life doing this alone." Cole chuckled. I wouldn't want to, you're the best guide I've ever had, but maybe we can ride together sometimes, as equals. For the first time, Zara didn't immediately refuse. She considered it, eyes scanning the canyon, then looking back at him. As equals, she said slowly. I can work with that for now. Cole felt a thrill. It wasn't just about partnership, it was about mutual respect, something he had rarely experienced in all his years on the frontier. He had faced countless challenges, outwitted countless foes, and survived where others hadn't. But standing here, beside someone who matched him in every way, he felt something more profound. He had found a kindred spirit. The townsfolk began to gather, approaching cautiously at first, then with smiles and greetings. They wanted to thank the two who had protected them, and Cole and Zara accepted their gratitude with modest nods. The people spoke of hope, of safety, and of a frontier that could be defended, not just by guns, but by clever minds and brave hearts. Cole looked around, noticing how the settlement had begun to recover. Gardens were being tended, homes repaired, and children cautiously returned to the streets. The frontier had tested them all, but human resilience was stronger than any threat. Zara turned to him. This place, it's still untamed, dangerous, but it has potential. People just need guidance and they need protection from those who would exploit it. Cole nodded. And we can provide that together. Zara studied him for a long moment, then finally said, I suppose having someone like you around wouldn't be the worst thing. Just don't get used to it. Cole laughed, tipping his hat. Wouldn't dream of it. The two of them mounted their horses and began riding along the cliffs, the settlement below slowly returning to life. The wind carried the hum of the crystals and the faint scent of the desert air. Cole realized that for the first time in a long time, he wasn't riding alone. He had found someone who could match his skill, his courage, and his determination. They rode in silence for a while, not because they had nothing to say, but because the moment was too perfect to interrupt. The sun climbed higher, painting the canyon with light and shadow. Cole felt a deep connection to the land, to the people, and to the woman riding beside him. He knew that the frontier would always be wild, full of danger and unpredictable. But with Zara at his side, he felt ready for whatever came next. At a narrow ridge overlooking the canyon, they paused. Cole gazed at the horizon where jagged cliffs met the sky. You know, he said, I've faced many threats in my life. Raiders, machines, storms, you name it. But nothing has ever been like this. Nothing has ever challenged me like you have. Zara looked at him, her eyes soft but firm. And you've surprised me, Cowboy. Most men would have failed long before now, but you've learned. You've adapted. That matters more than you realize. Cole felt a swell of pride. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about respect, understanding, and partnership. And he realized that he didn't just admire Zara, he trusted her. Do you think we're ready for whatever comes next? He asked. Zara smiled faintly, her eyes scanning the horizon. The frontier is never done testing us, but yes, I think we're ready. They rode down the ridge, side by side, the canyon stretching endlessly before them. Cole felt a sense of freedom he hadn't known in years. The frontier was dangerous, unpredictable, and untamed, but it was also full of possibility. And now, for the first time, he had someone who could ride with him through it all. As the sun rose higher, the settlement below buzzed with life. Cole and Zara guided the townsfolk, offering advice and sharing their knowledge. The frontier had tested them both, but they had emerged stronger, wiser, and united. The people of Nova Terra would remember this day, not just for the battle they survived, but for the courage, intelligence, and partnership that saved them. Cole looked at Zara, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and admiration. You know, he said quietly, I've spent my life riding alone, but this feels right. Riding with you, protecting the frontier, it feels like where I'm meant to be. Zara glanced at him, her expression unreadable for a moment, then softened. Maybe, she said slowly, we can ride together for a while, But don't forget this frontier is still mine to protect. Cole grinned. I wouldn't have it any other way. Together they rode out of the canyon, the twin suns of Nova Terra casting long shadows behind them. The settlement thrived below, safe and alive, and the frontier stretched endlessly before them. Cole knew that challenges would come again, as they always did. But for the first time in his life, he felt ready to face them, not alone, but with someone who matched his courage, intelligence, and spirit. The legend of Cole Maverick and Zara Vera had begun. A cowboy and a fearless frontier woman riding side by side, ready to face whatever the galaxy threw at them. The frontier was theirs, not to tame but to defend together. And in that moment, Cole realized something he had never understood before. True strength wasn't about being alone. It was about finding someone worthy to ride beside you. The canyon wind whispered through the crystals, carrying their story forward. And Cole Maverick, the cowboy who had faced the galaxy alone, now rode into a future full of promise, courage, and partnership.